After a couple years of teaching yoga, I really started to question whether this could be like my life. Like, can I really make a life of being a yoga teacher? Either I have to go buy a whole new set of clothes and try to get a real job, or this is going to be my thing. And I had a friend who was also my first yoga student who said, well, before you decide, we got to go to India. So we said, okay. So I saved up a bunch of money and we went for 3 months. And we didn't stay in an ashram. We just literally like a backpack and a let's go guide, and we just traveled around. And wherever I went, I did sort of look for teachers to see if I could find someone to study with. And I did end up finding this Swami. And, you know, our interaction started with him asking me, what do you want to learn? And I thought I was being very clever, and I answered, anything I don't already know. And he really held me to it. It started by him saying, do you know Danyurasana bow pose? And I said, yes. He'd say, show me. And I do my big feet on my head version, this back bend. And he said, ah, yes, children also do very well. He was totally unimpressed by my displays of physical prowess. And instead, he made me do really simple forms like rotating my wrist like this. And then he would say, okay, now sit. And we would sit for like a minute. And he'd say, okay, open your eyes. Now tell me, how do you feel? And for several days, I would go into these long-winded articulations about what I was experiencing in my body, and he would get very annoyed. And he'd say, let's try something else. And then eventually, after a couple days, I started to really question him. Like, I started to think he was a fraud, and this was a waste of my time. And we did this thing, and we sat. He said, okay, how do you feel? And I snapped at him. I said, I don't know how I feel. And he smiled really big for the first time. And he said, good. And it dawned on me that he had been asking me this question for days. How do you feel? How do you feel? And I never once answered the question, you know? I had no idea how I felt. I knew a lot about asanas and alignment and all this stuff, but I had no idea how I felt. And no one had ever asked me that. In the years of studying yoga in New York City, considered advanced in my practice, no one had ever asked me how I felt or even suggested it was important. And it changed everything for me, you know. It's how I came to decide what I do in my yoga practice. It's how I came to decide what I eat. It's how I came to decide the people I spend time with. So I knew a lot about what I thought, but I had no idea how I felt. And my yoga practice is how I came to know more how I feel. And it changed my thinking along the way.